Assalamu alaikum, welcome to YouTube channel Political System. Today we shall discuss about the liberalism, in which we shall glance about the liberalism, general characteristics of the liberalism and democracy, separation of the powers, periodic elections and the rise. So start with the liberalism, a political doctrine that takes the protecting and enhancing the freedom of the individual to be the central problem of the politics. Liberals typically believe that government is necessary to protect the individual from being harmed by others, but they also recognize that government itself can pose a threat to liberty, as the revolutionary American pamphleteer Thomas Paine expressed it in the common sense, government is the best necessary evil. Now when we talk about the general characteristic, liberalism is derived from the two related features of the Western culture. The first is the Western's preoccupation with individuality as compared to the emphasis in other civilizations on the status, caste, and traditions. Throughout much of the history, the individual has been submerged in this and subordinate to his clan, tribe, ethnic group, or kingdom. Liberalism is the culmination of the developments in Western society that produce a sense of the importance of human individuality, or liberation of the individual forms the complete separation of the group and a relaxation of the tight hold of customs, law, and authority. In this respect, the liberalism stands for the impersonation of the individual. Now when we talk about the relationship between liberalism and democracy, the early liberals then worked to the free individuals from two forms of the social constraint, religious conformity, and the aristocracy's privileges that had been maintained and enforced through the powers of government. The aim of the early liberals had thus to limit the power of the government over the individual while holding it accountable to the government. As Locke and others argue that required a system of government based on majority rule, that is, one in which the government executes the express will of the majority of the electorate. Chief institution devised for attaining this goal was the periodic election of this legislation by popular vote and of the chief executive by the popular vote of the Legislative Assembly. Now when we talk about the separation of the powers, the liberal solution to the problem of limiting the power of democratic majority employs various devices. The first was the separation of the power. The distribution of the power between such functionally differentiated agencies of government as the legislature and the executive and the judiciary. This arrangement and the system of the checks and balances by which it was accomplished received the classic embodiment of the Constitution of the United States and its political justification in the Federalist Papers by Alexander Hamilton. And John says, of course, such separations of power also could have been achieved through a mixed constitution, that is, in which power is shared by the government, functions appropriately differentiate between a monarch and a hereditary chamber in the political system. Now when we shall discuss about the periodic election, the second part of the solution is using the staggered periodic elections to make the decision of any given majority subject to the co-occurrence of other majorities distributed over the time. In the United States, for example, the president are elected every 4 years and members of the House of the Representatives every 2 years, and 1/3 of the Senate is elected every 2 years to a term of 6 years. Therefore, the majority that elects a president every 4 years, the House of the Representatives every 2 years is different from the majority elected of the third of the Senate 2 years early, and the majority that elects 1/3 of the Senate 2 years later. These bodies in turn are checked by the Constitution, which were approved and amended by the earlier majorities. Now when we shall discuss about the rights, which is very important and play a sole role. The third part of the solution followed from the liberalism basic commitment to the freedom and integrity of the individual, which the limitations of power is after all mean to preserve. For the liberal perspective, the individuality is not only a citizen who shares a social contract with his fellows, but also person. A majority verdict can come about only if individuals are free to some extent to change their views. This involves beyond the right to speak and write freely, the freedom to associate, organize, and above all the freedoms for fear from the repressor by the individuals, all the rights apart from this role as a citizen. These rights secure his personal safety and hence his protection from the arbitrary arrest and punishment. I have to end my lecture here. Stay tuned with us. If you like the video, subscribe and share. Allah Hafiz.